Unlikely victories, improbable drives, spectacular crashes, amazing races, impossible records being broken. In a year where we thought we were not going to get a season, this year gave us one of the best seasons of all time. F1 2020. What a special season. Let's jump the start.
All right, everybody, welcome in Jump to Start Racing podcast. I'm here. My name is Wellington. I'm here with two of my closest friends. Ruben, say hi.
What's going on, guys?
Yhancy?
Hi.
Very subdued hi.
Super excited.
Yeah, no race this weekend. So
There's no reason to be excited anymore, man. Season's over.
Yeah. So jumping into this, it's our season recap episode. We'll go through some of the news that has come out during the last couple of days, and then we'll just recap, we'll talk again about the top 10 drivers on the grid, our favorite race of the year, our favorite drive of the year, and then our biggest wish for next year.
Do we get to blow out candles while we make that wish?
If you want, yeah.
Oh, excuse me, guys.
Somebody's
I'll be right
birthday
back.
somewhere, yeah. But before we get into that, I want to make sure I put out all of our information. We are at Jump to Start F1 on Twitter and Instagram. We're on Jump to Start Racing on YouTube. Please check us out. Subscribe, like, smash the like button, as they say. And we're also on a bunch of podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeart Radio, TuneIn, and Stitcher.
Sorry, I was Googling where I can get a birthday candle. Can you repeat that again?
I'm going to go backwards. Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart Radio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Guys, subscribe if you like what you hear. Drop us a review, 5-star preferably. Interact with us on Twitter and Instagram at Jump to Start F1. It's a lot of fun on there. And if you want, drop us an email, jumptostartracing@gmail.com. Sorry for screwing that one up. But let's get into it. The news. So the biggest piece of news coming out of this past week was Sergio Perez is now signed with Red Bull.
Surprise, surprise.
Ted was right.
Yeah.
After he stole the guy's food, after
Bento box.
a lot of people were very skeptical of that piece of news, but he was right.
Right. So what does this mean? Alex Albon did not show enough in the year and a half that he was in Red Bull. And Sergio Perez, who is himself obviously a veteran driver, a consistent driver, comes into the Red Bull team. Obviously, he brings in sponsors as well and forms a very formidable team with Max Verstappen. Ruben, what are your thoughts on this, my man?
I'm just wondering, when was the deal actually signed? Like, how long ago and stuff like that? And would he be, I saw earlier in searching online and stuff like that, that he will settle to be the next Bottas. I would have wondered for him, but
it's the next Bottas.
He will settle. He said that?
No. I said, would he settle to be the next Bottas? Because you're coming to take it to Max.
Beggars can't be choosers. He's been driving.
Whoa. You think he begged for that seat?
No, I'm not saying that he's begging for it. What I'm saying is that
he did beg for a competitive team.
Well, he wanted. He's been driving for 10 years, and he finally got in a competitive team. It doesn't matter what position you're in.
And he showed.
But you're in one of those seats. And after the year of his career, basically, he got his first win, a few podiums,
points,
like and he was out for 2 races with COVID. He earned that. Doesn't matter if you're second fiddle or not. You're on a top team. Now the onus is on him to show that, so he can stay there. I'm sure he will.
Mr. What calls him? Mr.
Consistency.
No, traction control.
No. That's automatic traction control. I think calls him.
He's built-in traction control. I heard that. I'm not gonna take credit for that. But
you heard it.
I heard that, but it's true. The guy is phenomenal on tires. he has a way of flowing into a corner where there's not a lot of wheel spin, so it's like a smooth transition. He's a great driver. He's not. I don't like to use great, but he's a very good driver because great would be somebody like Hamilton or Schumacher or something like that, or Verstappen. But he's a good driver.
I think the same thing you say. He's not great, but the way he drives, the consistency, nurturing the tires, and what he's shown throughout all of these years, with Force India, keeping competitive, came to the Pink Panther and they gave him the car. He, put up. He's up there,
and he's built that team.
Yes,
he's helped develop that car.
He helped,
and he saved the team.
Not with the money, but
no. What I'm saying, he helped save that team, keep it intact, and they've been able to develop that car to where it is now, to the point, and even during those years that he was there, they were able to punch above their weight
with limited money.
Yeah, with limited money, and finish fourth in the constructors for such a small team.
I think they were always there.
He was the team leader.
I think they were always there, top 5, top 3 all the time.
Yeah, he was. Sad to see him go from that team, but at the end of the day, good that he got a drive on a top team because he definitely deserved that. Would have been sad if he wasn't on the grid at all.
Super sad. That's true.
Yeah. But now, the onus is on Red Bull. You got 2 solid drivers. You got possibly one of the greatest drivers. We'll see how his career ends, but we can all agree that Max is one of those type of drivers. And now you have a solid driver with experience who is a race winner, can get you a podium whenever you need it on a day when it's
available.
When it's available.
When it's up for grabs, of course.
When it's up for grabs, and you can consistently run in those top 4 spots, Perez can deliver. Now, can Red Bull deliver the car? That's the key. Because now the pressure's on Red Bull.
I mean, when you say can Red Bull deliver the car, what do you mean by that? To Perez by himself, or for them to fight for the top spot, for the championship. Because that'll be tough to do.
You remember,
I know.
You did have Ricciardo in that seat before Albon and Gasly for 2 years, I believe.
Ricciardo was in longer than that, yeah.
Yeah. So
much longer, yeah.
Well, 3 years actually. You had Max and Ricciardo in that seat, young Max Verstappen, but he was coming into his own. But you had those 2 very good drivers in that seat, but the car would always start off bad during the season, but end up in a good spot.
Yeah. Well, it was the Renault engine too. They had a lot of DNFs.
Well, but now they have a Honda engine. But
you're right.
Good.
You're right, because by the time they always get to the U.S., Mexico, then they're killing everybody in the races.
Yeah, but
is it because people stop developing the car and they just continue to do it?
Maybe.
Well, we're not talking just about people. We're just talking about
no.
Mercedes, who's been a cut above the rest every single year.
Right.
But they don't get off to a good start. At least, for example, you look at in 2016. They started off the year bad, and they wound up overtaking Ferrari at the end to get the second spot in 2016. 2017, they started off slow, but it was a fight between Ferrari and Mercedes. 2018 was the same thing. They've always been third fiddle, but they can never get above because their car is either unreliable, the engine sucks,
Yeah.
or they have or these past 2 years they've been handcuffed because their drivers are not up to par.
Second driver.
Yeah, their second driver is not up to par. So now you have the 2 solid drivers. You have an engine which is
bulletproof,
second, third best on the grid.
No. But the engine, as far as consistency,
and it's a very reliable engine.
Yeah, reliability. There you go. It was bulletproof this year.
And Christian Horner even said it recently in an article. Now they have to build a car that's good on all tracks. It can't be on a twisty, turny track. It has to be good on all tracks because the Mercedes car is good on all tracks. We praise the Mercedes cars because they're so good in a straight line, but they're also good through the corners too. It's a complete car.
So I want to give you some information, right? This is
I like how Wellington let us, me and you, discuss a little bit while he was there, running the gear.
He's playing a meme.
I got you
He's
now.
cheating right now. He's about to come up with
I'm about to reel you guys in. So I'll give you some stats. he's got 191 race starts, obviously 1 win, 10 podiums, 706 career points, 4th place finish last year. His first race was 2011 Australian Grand Prix.
Sauber, no?
Correct. Sauber. So he was, throughout his career since 2011, he raced with Sauber Ferrari, McLaren, Force India, Racing Point, and now he's going to Red Bull. So what we've heard also come out of the news is that the Red Bull car will be 40% new. What does that mean? They're developing a car that they will need to work the kinks out of, just like they have in recent years. And now they have a guy that has experience across different cars, different vehicles, different manufacturers, and he could get a car working right. And this is something that we talked about earlier in the year that they really missed. When he had COVID, they really missed him because they could not set up the track. I think it was set up the car for the track. I think it was
for the both Silverstone races. Yeah.
Yep.
Where they really struggled, where they were expected to be really
exactly good. So in that situation, I expect a lot from both Perez and Red Bull. Further, because it's now the second car, we saw both Alex Albon and Gasly struggle with the setup of that Red Bull car, that second Red Bull car.
Do any of you guys think that he's going to have trouble with that car? Checo meaning?
I don't think so.
It's going to take getting used to, right? And he's going to have to put in a ton of laps in testing. Why? Because it's a different style of car. It's a high rate car. It's a different aero system based on whatever Adrian Newey comes up with now. I think that it will take some getting used to, more so than jumping to another.
But I think he'll settle quick into the seat.
I think that's because of his experience.
Because of his experience, of course.
Because he's driven different cars.
Yes.
It's very different when you put in a driver, let's say a Pierre Gasly.
It's new.
Or Alex Albon, who the only car they've driven before is an Alpha Tauri, which is subpar compared to what a Red Bull is, or even a Mercedes. But Perez has the experience where he's driven for a top team. At that time was McLaren. He's driven in the midfield. He's driven in cars. He's progressively developed that car with
Force India.
With Force India, Racing Point. So he has the experience, and like we said, built-in traction control. He knows how to control the car, and he knows when to go, when to not go, so the car is not consistently spinning on him. So I think he's going to do a good job.
So,
but your point was, like, also I opened it to me. I said, hey, but his experience is going to help him build a car, develop the car quicker. Pretty much, let's use him as a sample of what happened with Grosjean in Haas, where Grosjean helped these people.
Even though they had to go backwards, back to their Australia spec, it helped them last year. So then, like, compare it to his most recent teammate, Sergio Perez's most recent teammate, Lance Stroll, who you constantly hear on the radio, oh, it's not working for me, or like the car is just sliding all over the place. That's my Lance Stroll impression, by the way.
Like I'm driving close enough.
No, sounds like what is that, Mr. Bill? Whoa.
It's like he always said also, I think one point he said the car was totally different car from Q1 to Q2 or Q3 or something like that. Like, what happened to the car? I feel like
right. Once you enter Q1, like, it's park from A. Like, it's not going to change. Whatever. That's your boy Lance Stroll.
Guys, what happened?
What happened? Oh. So, all right. So
these tires, they're losing temperature.
I don't know what to do. Anyway.
Sounds like a spoiled brat.
Well, I'd rather that billionaire son than the one we're currently. Anyway, we'll get to that later. But so where do we think that this sets up? How do we think that we see this play out between Max and Sergio Perez? Max has not had a challenge since Daniel Ricciardo.
It's a different challenge now for him.
In what sense?
In the sense that Ricciardo, they were both fighting to be, the guy at Red Bull. Yeah. I think Perez is not going to go for that. Perez,
come on, a race driver that's not trying to win.
But whenever he has the opportunity to go ahead and perform, I think this is probably going to just maybe push Max a little more.
I'll give you a quote from Max, and this is what he said. And I just hope that Checo will be the one. Yeah, and I just hope that Checo will be the one to first of all push the whole team forward, but also keep me on my toes. which is always nice to have a teammate pushing you. It's exciting.
There you go.
So that is what is expected from Checo, from not only Red Bull, but also Max Verstappen, because Max knows that he needs someone like a Bottas to Lewis Hamilton, where can't necessarily beat him, but will be there giving him some sort of like a bar, like I have to beat this so you can be better. So most of the time in qualifying, you would see that this year. Let's say we're talking about now Bottas and Hamilton, where Bottas will put up a time and Hamilton will come through and beat it. But the bar was set. Bottas said, beat this, and Lewis Hamilton would come through.
Right.
Verstappen never had that this season. Didn't have that last season. He was always ahead.
Yeah.
So,
and by a mile.
So what a racing driver wants to do is compete, even if it's with his own teammate.
What any true competitive sportsman wants to do is compete.
Exactly. So I'm glad, at least, because I don't think you would see Max saying something like that before. But now he sees that this is what's needed in order. You need a competitive teammate to fight Mercedes. And it was evident this entire season, because the only one up there with the Mercedes cars was Max Verstappen, and Red Bull always lost out.
As the Lone Ranger too up there.
Yeah. So, and how many races could Max have won if Albon was fighting up at the top, at least trying to disrupt the strategy for Mercedes? So Max knows this, the team knows this, Checo knows what is expected, and he has the experience to do that. I'm excited about it because I think that he will, and I'm hoping that we can get a bit of a title fight. I'm not going to go as far. I'm not going to go on the limb and say that Red Bull's going to beat Mercedes, but it's definitely a little bit more interesting now that they signed Checo.
So I think you're 100% right. I think that, so a lot of times, like me, when I'm doing something at work or even with you guys, it's, guys, what do you think of this as my sanity check, right? Sometimes you go so far off on your direction that you just need somebody to be like, hold on, this is all just messed up. So I think that in this sense, right, that it would help Max to have a more veteran guy saying, yo, but I think you could do this better or do this. So I feel like that, this is going to sound weird, but like that relationship that you see they still have a strong relationship, Max and Daniel Ricciardo, a lot of that was kind of coaching him along. Okay, you're a talented guy, but here's how you refine your technique and here's how you get better. It's like, I don't know what would be like a good analogy, like in basketball or in baseball, but like, I don't know, like Peyton with Eli Manning or whatever. Like, here's how, okay, you're good, but here's how you take your game to the next level. I think that we'll see a lot of that, or we'll see some of Max's driving be
in
more
basketball,
refined.
if you watch The Last Dance, you would see that dynamic with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen.
It just, they drive each other to be better, and I think that obviously he needs that. What do you guys think that this means for the rest of the grid?
I think it makes it.
What do you mean?
Makes it more exciting
For everybody else.
And obviously, I'm not expecting a big closure of the gaps between the cars. The team that I think is probably going to make the highest jump will probably be McLaren. But again, it doesn't that doesn't matter at the top of the field. I think it's still going to be a 2-horse race at the top. I don't see anybody else moving up above the midfield.
I see Ferrari coming back a little bit next year.
Yeah, but they'll probably be top midfield. I don't see them fighting at the top because the car is very similar. Now, if they do, I'll be okay. It's
going to be hyper competitive next year. That midfield.
It's probably going to be even more. Oh yeah, it's probably going to be even more competitive than it was this year. But it's still going to be a 2-horse race because it's so. The gap was. I don't know what the gap on average was almost half, like 30 seconds.
So you think Aston is not going to put up?
No, I don't see it.
I don't think that they'll be in the league of Red Bull and Mercedes.
Yeah, I don't think.
But
so.
They'll be also not far behind them. Because Racing Point was not far behind. They at the end they fell off, but it was because obviously our good friend Stroll did not put the points up. But
yeah, but now here's the thing. you have now a Racing Point team, which will become Aston Martin, that if you look at the driver lineups, forget about the cars, talking about just the driver lineups, probably have the weakest out of all the midfield teams. Because you have Lance Stroll there. And we'll see what happens with Vettel.
And it's exactly what Perez said in the post-race interview. You need two strong drivers. So for me, I think for the rest of the grid, this is going to be a lot of pressure on Valtteri Bottas, who has bad starts, has issues mid-race, has a lot of bad luck. Now you're going to start seeing teams split the Mercedes, or Red Bull split the Mercedes a lot more. And it's going... I feel like the pressure is going to come from both places. It's going to come to beat Hamilton, and then it's also going to come to not be split by the Red Bulls, to not fall behind them, and make sure you don't create a big gap in the constructors. I think we're going to really see what Bottas can do. Is he, he's finished like Kimi. Is he going to be the Iceman, I guess, 2.0 or whatever?
Anything that I've seen the past few years is that Bottas is, out of all the drivers that drive on a top team, besides Alex Albon, obviously, or Pierre Gasly, let's say the stable drivers that are on the top team, Bottas is the most vulnerable. He's not a particularly great defender, but he's decent, and he's not a particularly great overtaker. So it's a double whammy for him. He's a solid driver. He can get you quick laps, but he's definitely not a driver that will instill fear in you if your engineer comes on the radio and said, Bottas is ahead of you or behind you. So yeah, you're completely correct. The pressure's on Bottas.
I'm going to read you some finishes. Jeez. Alex Albon from Russia. Remember, he got in Tuscany, he got the third place, the first podium for him from Russia on. 10th, retired 12th, 15th, 7th, 3rd, 6th, and 4th. Dude, that's the second best car on the grid. I guess fourth best car on the grid, but, second best constructor on the grid. What are you doing hanging out in the slums down there?
Paris would have been closer.
Any experienced driver would have been close. Red Bull is in the position that they were in the past few years is because they've been so stubborn as to keep within their driver academy, which is not a bad thing if your drivers are ready.
Well, remember, you invest, your investment has to put up on some time, and so that's why they keep bringing it from their academy, because they've been investing.
Yeah, but if you want to fight for a championship, you need the best drivers in the car.
But that's what you're hoping your academy turns into,
So can I read you I'm going to call it the third best car, the Racing Point. Sergio Perez's finishes from the same time frame: 4th, 7th, 6th, 2nd, 18th when his engine blew up, 1st, and retired when his engine blew up, or he had the oil pressure issue.
Wasn't it a transmission issue?
Whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Some issue.
Yeah. But
it wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault. That's my point, yeah. So that's a world of difference. He outscored Alex Albon during that time
which is why many were calling it a travesty that he didn't have a seat for next year.
Yeah.
Red Bull finally made the right choice. Happy for them, but like I said, now give him the car to fight. I think the car is good enough, but let's see if they can make that leap. Remember that Mercedes stopped developing their car halfway through the season.
Yeah.
To start working on the new car.
To start working on the new car for 2018, you said?
2019.
2019. Oh, you're living in the past, bro. This
for 2021.
Been not bad for you, huh? For 2021. So, yeah. But they got to deliver the car. They need to get off to a better start. I think this is the season that they can get off to a better start because, again, it's 60% of the car that's being carried over. Now, that 40% matters. It's a big difference.
And what is Mercedes bringing?
Exactly. And then you have Aston Martin in the mix with a Mercedes engine, and you're going to have McLaren, who's been slowly but surely moving up the field every year with a Mercedes engine and two solid drivers in Ricciardo and Lando Norris.
Yeah. So there's that. whatever. Alex Albon is now a reserve driver for Red Bull. We'll see. Yuki Tsunoda signs with Alpha Tauri. See you later, Daniel Kvyat. Thanks for the memories. The torpedo.
Who was it that didn't believe me that they were going to sign Tsunoda? Was it you, Ruben?
Was it? I have no idea.
So
I just wanted to say I told you so.
I mean, this guy is Japanese kid.
Yeah, Japanese. He is coming in from Formula 2. He placed 3rd place
as a rookie
in Formula 2 behind Mick Schumacher and Callum
This is a
Ilott.
kid that's backed by Honda, right?
Yes.
And
very
Honda's
much.
leaving. Like this is one of your drivers.
How crazy, right?
Is just made it to F1 and you're still leaving.
They really had an opportunity to be like, yo, this is our guy. This is racing's future.
He came in 3rd, got enough super license points to make it to F1. Seems like a pretty solid
they bought it,
driver.
whatever, but Honda, this is Honda's kid.
What did you say?
Whatever they were missing, they bought a couple of points. Whatever.
He's good, man.
Nah, the kid is good.
To be as a rookie to be able to do that.
And he was just named Rookie of the Year.
I think also
Lafayette Rookie of the Year.
I always think of the movie where the Cubs like the kid with the arm, the Rookie of the Year.
I think
you took it back, bro.
As a Japanese driver, this also brings back a lot of the market has somehow been forgotten over there. That's also buried into right. F1, which is the Japan area.
They're probably the most enthusiastic F1 fans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Aside from the Dutch are pretty fun too.
And Brazilians.
Yeah, but the Japanese fans
was it Kobayashi?
Yep, that was the last one.
Wow,
yeah, Kobayashi, and then you had Taku, which is a Takuma Sato.
Yeah, but he's in Indy now.
He's in Indy now, but he raced in F1 for a while.
But Kobayashi was the one that was there for the longest.
He was there for a while too. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a while, but it's good because the fan base. I mean, the Japanese fan base is fun. These guys make their own custom-made hats, and they look just like the F1 cars sometimes. Like it's fun. They're very passionate about the sport. So it's gonna bring a lot of eyes to this.
Good.
Obviously, to if it's not already, a lot of enthusiasm in that part of the world more. And the kid is quick, so it'll be fun to see him up against Gasly to see how he can do.
Because it's not only going to be the faithful Japanese F1 fan watching. There's also going to be countrymen. Yo, we have a Japanese driver there. We got to watch now.
Absolutely, yeah. 2014 was when Kobayashi. That was his last season. Tsunoda
with the numbers, dude.
Tsunoda was part of the Honda Formula Dream project and the Red Bull Junior team. So we go back now to we know the Red Bull Junior teams and the Red Bull development program to pump out talent, right? Obviously, we had some issues the last couple of years. Brendan Hartley, Daniel Kvyat, and Gasly showed and didn't show. Albon showed and didn't show as well.
Yeah, but
this kid is talented. He's gonna be talented.
Red Bull. If Red Bull wasn't the hot stove that it is for drivers,
hot seats.
there was something that you sent. I think it was on Instagram. It was a tweet by somebody where I'm trying to think. All right, so the Vettel, ex-Red Bull driver, replaced by another ex-Red Bull driver.
Yep, Carlos
Sainz.
Who's replaced by
another Red Bull driver, Daniel Ricciardo. Right? And then what was
Renault?
And
that was caused by a Racing Point.
Vettel,
the ex-Red Bull driver, is going to Aston Martin to replace the driver that's going to Red Bull.
Red Bull. So you can see how Red Bull has their tentacles in all of these drivers because there's so many good drivers. It's just that you have to give them time to develop. Red Bull gave up on Sainz.
Yeah, but they saw an opportunity
because they never moved them up at when he wanted to, but he was ready.
That's great.
They give you. They either give you too much time or they don't give you enough time.
Yeah, like his times were not far from Max.
No, when they raced together in what was Toro Rosso, now Alpha Tauri.
Was Max in Toro Rosso?
Max? Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was for half
Oh, no, I'm
a
sorry.
season.
I'm confused. Yeah, no, he won his first race.
He won his
as a
first
Red
race as a Red Bull
Yeah, my
driver.
bad. That's on my own.
Yeah, but he replaced Kvyat
Yes.
when Kvyat was driving for Red Bull.
So we're excited to see what Yuki Tsunoda brings to the table. We're happy that, look at this. This is amazing. An Asian driver back on the grid. So let's stick to that theme. Carlos Sainz officially introduced as, the Ferrari driver that we knew.
Vamos!
All of a sudden, he's a
Vamos!
He's
He
a
woke
Chile
up.
fan.
He woke up now.
Then
Go Chile.
Vamos, Chile!
I cannot wait to see Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc fighting each other.
That's gonna be fun.
I think we're gonna see really where the talent stands, and I think that's.
I think you're gonna see a closer battle this year within Ferrari.
Well, yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna see that. It's like what, going back to what Max said, you want a teammate that can push you. I think that Carlos will now will push Leclerc, and Leclerc obviously will push Sainz, but Sainz is young and he wants to, put his stamp on F1, and he has been doing it the past few years. Now that he's in the red car, it should be fun to watch. It's going to be a fun matchup, and obviously we can't wait to see Ricciardo and Lando together. I think that Leclerc showed more of a personality during the lockdown, so to see them together is gonna be a lot more fun and lighten up the mood at Ferrari.
The banana costume? I know. I remember.
That was great. So, all right. So we last talked about this at the beginning of the season. Obviously, now that we're a whole season later, where do we see in the pecking order? Obviously, we'll say it this way, right? You'll have Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Verstappen, the top four. We'll call it that, right?
It's funny he mentioned.
We're talking just drivers now?
No. As far as like where we expect them to kind of finish, obviously Verstappen, Perez switch, and maybe Bottas and Verstappen. But where do you see a Carlos Sainz based on what Ferrari was able to do this year with their drivers, finishing in obviously in the Drivers' Championship? So you had Charles Leclerc finishing 8th and Sebastian Vettel finishing 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Putting a position on
What are the
both.
point totals?
Leclerc 98, Vettel 33.
Big difference.
Putting a position, I'd say both of them will be definitely top 10.
Okay.
Like,
Way to go out on a
Sainz-
limb. Thank you.
No, Sainz would not be 13th. Because if he comes to Ferrari with the same hungerness that he had at McLaren, and how the culture is changing at Ferrari as well. I mean, these guys,
We hope the culture is changing it for us.
yeah, exactly. So, like for example, this thing that little video that McLaren was doing every week, the unbox, it showed like the team has a flow. Obviously, we don't know that because Ferrari didn't show that side of them, but you don't see.
They try, but it's not.
No,
as
but
fun.
you don't see Ferrari's more like a.
They're very corporate.
They're like the Yankees.
Like a military, like the Yankees. You could say.
They're very corporate.
So here's what I'll say. I feel that they're going to finish very, very close to each other. Why do I say that? Because while Charles Leclerc, he still shows a little bit of over aggressiveness that has cost him DNFs, right?
Makes mistakes.
You don't see that from Sainz. He's like a freaking surgeon out there, right? You never see him make a.
What was the race that he missed the turn and he blew half of the car?
I don't remember.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I do. I don't.
I think Max made it, but he went.
Yeah.
That they gave him the other half of the car with the signature.
But that's a rare mistake. That's the only one we could even think about with Sainz.
You're right. He is. Sainz reminds me a lot of Perez in his consistency. Very quiet drives, nothing to write home about, but he's always within the points, top 5, top 6. Especially if he has a good car. If he has a chance to go for it, he will. You can see that how he was closing in on this was in Italy in Monza
Closing in on Pierre Gasly.
on Pierre Gasly
Yeah.
for the win. He really wanted that win.
Of course.
And that, that was a good race. So, and he smelt it. He wanted that win. So, yeah, but again, he's not a spectacular driver, but he gets the results. And, that's what you need.
I wonder if the culture status of the team, will it affect him? Being 2 years at McLaren, so relaxed, so yo, dude, go do your thing, dude.
It won't.
Now going to
No.
Arrivederci, get out of here. Come on.
You know why it won't? He's the son of Carlos Sainz Sr. Carlos Sainz Sr. is
Still a legend.
a legend in
Still a
rallying.
legend.
So
I wonder how he's gonna do that.
not only has Carlos Sainz, he has the demeanor for it, but he's been prepped for this all his life.
Yep.
He knows what to say. He knows not to ruffle feathers. Just look at the way he maneuvered himself out of Red Bull when it wasn't favorable for him.
That's true.
When most drivers, when you see what happens with Red Bull and its drivers, the relationship just blows up, or they just drop you. He was able to finesse his way to Renault,
get a trade.
then sign with McLaren.
Yep.
And he was in Renault while he was still a Red Bull driver.
Yeah, he was on.
He was on loan. And then he signed with McLaren and everything goes from there. But he did that in a very, very smooth, he finessed his way out of it.
Very high level.
He would know what to say in the media.
know,
He's very savvy with that.
High class restaurant, high
Mhm.
China.
Dude, I got so pissed watching him in Drive to Survive on his freaking yacht with his dad, his whole family, eating jamón serrano,
Yep.
drinking all the wine. Come on,
Jamón.
jamón.
Not guacamole.
And I'm here in the snow in New
Guacamole.
York, and I can't travel.
Dirty snow.
Yeah, the dirty snow. So I wanted to touch base on something Ruben just said. So he went from McLaren, he was in Red Bull, McLaren, Renault, now he's at Ferrari. We just talked about a guy that was just like that, Sergio Perez.
Yep.
So I think that the best thing for Ferrari would be to just, I'm going to say it this way, let Carlos cook, right? Just let him do his thing because he's going to improve. He's seen different approaches. So now you're going into a situation where it's very regimented, whatever. It's only going to help them do better. And it's only going to help Charles Leclerc refine his technique as a driver. Granted, his partner has been a 4-time world champion, but now to see things
They're different.
little
They're in
different.
different stages of their career.
exactly.
He can cook as long as he puts some chili in it.
What is the name of the song? What is the song that he kept singing on the radio with McLaren?
Smooth operator.
So which song is he gonna? Which Italian song is he gonna?
I don't know any Italian songs, but for the first episode of next season, I'm gonna come up with a song for you, buddy.
Okay. All right. So there's that wraps up the driver movements potentially, maybe. We'll move a little more quickly. Toto Wolff re-signs with Mercedes AMG F1 for Mercedes AMG Petronas F1. That's the way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking back to Drive to Survive. He signs for 3 years.
I just thought of that.
Yeah, increases his stock options. He now owns 33% of the team, along with Ineos and I guess the Mercedes.
When everybody thought he was on his way out, he just dug himself deeper.
With
And
a clause.
Not much more to say here, right? Other than this just kind of ensures the continued success of Mercedes.
Means that Mercedes will be a monster for years to come.
Terminator.
3 more years will be.
So if you're gonna beat Mercedes, is gonna be on the track. They're not gonna self implode. So bring your A game, Red Bull. Bring your A game, Ferrari. Bring your A game, and you don't need. I don't even think the A game is enough. I think you got to bring your A plus game.
So when is the engine regulations changed? 2025.
Yes, at the end of the 2025.
No, they're due for 2026. They're trying to move it down to 2025.
Gotcha. So there will not be that move.
And in the meantime, what? And this is gaining momentum with other teams. Red Bull, want an engine freeze. So they can keep their Honda engines, which I think would be a good move because then we can have some convergence and we can have some competitive racing along with the new aero rules for 2022.
But changes.
So back to Toto.
Yeah. So not even so much Toto, but all right, he signs for 3 years. Lewis Hamilton had also said, "Hey, I could see myself racing for 3." Didn't he say 3 years? Or am I making that up?
If Toto Wolff is the team principal at Mercedes, expect Lewis Hamilton there.
Yeah.
Which
10
means
world titles? 10 world titles?
Jeez.
That's possible, man. That is possible. That is definitely
all the
possible.
changes coming is only going to
The only thing that's going to derail Mercedes if they completely mess up the 2022 rule changes, which I doubt.
I don't think so.
Because they are, look at the way they prepared for the hybrid engine era and how well that's gone for them. If they prepare the same way for the aero rules for 2022, Mercedes. I'm not saying that any other there's not going to be another team that's going to catch up to them, but they're going to be formidable. They're going to be formidable, and that car seems a lot more fun to drive. That 2022 with the aero rules seems a lot more fun to drive than these cars now. Even though the drivers say that they're fun to drive, but the drivers want more racing, and that's what Hamilton likes. If you have Hamilton on your team, bro,
what team? I mean, I was going to say my answer will be Red Bull, but the only team I see dethroning Mercedes
right
as a
now,
surprise,
just Red Bull.
Just Red Bull, and that's because Red Bull has had the edge for a long time as well on aero.
Yeah, but if
that's what normally happens. Normally, the team that's been consistently winning gets dethroned by somebody that's able to maneuver the rules and the regulations to their favor and come in as a surprise.
If Ferrari get their act together, they have the resources to do it.
Nah, but they ain't doing it though.
Lastly, as far as news,
I think they will.
Not even news. It's just swirling rumors. But the whole Nikita Mazepin thing, we didn't even talk about it last week because
we didn't elaborate on it. Yeah,
frankly, it's a little distasteful, to be 100% honest. The rumor, obviously, there is now the hashtag we say no to Mazepin. The things have come out. He's the woman that was in the video with him took down the apology or like the explanation for the apology and now is like defriended him. So it's just all internet drama. But now you start to see a little more distancing. It's hard to even, it's so nebulous. It's hard to really say anything. But here's the news, right?
There's no transparency.
Pietro Fittipaldi now has Formula One driver in his bio, and Nikita Mazepin does not. So that's the news.
Racing driver.
That's what's driving all the speculation.
I don't.
There's also something else.
But this doesn't make sense. This never makes any sense to me because if you have an announcement, if a team is going to make an announcement, why would you change something in your bio? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Because you're excited.
When you're how do you call this? When you're collecting like signatures for a change
petition.
So there's a petition going on to get him out of.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of signatures too.
This has been a shit show since the beginning. Okay, one, obviously, Haas did the right thing at the beginning when the video came out and they said that the behavior is abhorrent. Regardless of what the relationship was between them, it is abhorrent behavior. It's something that we as a society are trying to drive out, that kind of behavior. So that's one. The mistake that Haas made was that it was going to keep it private. Now we don't know what's going to happen. They said they were going to punish him, but what is the punishment? Because at the same time, when something like this happens, if you want to send a message that this is a behavior that is not acceptable anywhere, then you must show an example of what happens if you do that. So it could be a deterrent for a driver not to do that, or anybody not to behave that way.
Yeah.
So again, this whole behind closed doors thing, when it's something like this, especially after the Me Too movement, that doesn't fly anymore. And it doesn't fly with fans. And you can see it with the hashtag on the internet. And would I be surprised if they let him go? No. But I also won't be surprised if they keep him.
Yeah. That's exactly.
And if they keep him, then you have a PR. Then you have a PR mess within your ranks, and I don't think Haas wants that.
They're already on the edge.
Yeah.
Why would they want that? I don't know. All right, forget it. The news done, over with. Get out of here. Right. Season recap.
You kick him out already?
I kick out the news. That's
Oh,
what
the
I'm
news,
kicking
not
out,
Mazepin.
yes.
Okay,
No,
gotcha,
the
okay, I'm
news.
sorry.
I got to be careful
I
because
thought you had that kind of authority.
no.
bro.
They're billionaires. They could come after me.
Well, that's true.
Buy us out.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
They almost did Williams.
So
Or Racing Point. What was it? They one for that?
Who?
The family, Mazepin family.
yeah, they tried to buy out Williams.
Williams.
And Racing
No,
Point.
and Racing
I'm sorry,
Point, too.
Racing Point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Williams. Yeah, when they went to Dorito Capital.
He's trying to be a Lawrence Stroll.
Dorito Capital.
Dorito Capital. Thoroton.
So on F1.com, Formula1.com, they released a couple of lists of the top 10 drivers, one chosen by the drivers, one chosen by the bosses. I'm going to focus on the one chosen by the bosses, right? I'm going to read it down from the top. They had a methodology of how they chose it. Here's the results. Lewis Hamilton 1, Max Verstappen 2. Are we shocked yet? No.
I'm not.
Charles Leclerc 3. I think we
had
had him. Yeah, we had him in that range,
we
right?
had him like fourth, I think.
Daniel Ricciardo 4. I think we had them flip-flopped
Yeah.
when we did our rank. Sergio Perez 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where we were too. George Russell 6. That's the one we didn't even have him on our list.
No.
That's
Georgie.
surprising.
What do you think of that? We see the talent.
Surprising, but I would have him all the way up there. But does he deserve to be in the top 10? Yes, especially what he showed when he did get that one drive for Mercedes.
So who would you have above him?
Oof.
Norris? Sainz?
Let's see.
Dude, Norris.
I think Sainz.
you're saying
I think you would put Sainz above him right now. Bottas definitely up there too. And it,
Bottas not even on that list.
he's
just
on
about
he's
the
on
team
the on the team bosses.
Oh, no,
list,
yeah, Team Boss. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's tied for
Team
ninth.
Boss's list,
My
yeah.
bad. I have my mouse covering his name.
And it'll be it'll be close between Russell and Pierre Gasly too, because Gasly.
For like 6
But I would put him above Gasly because Gasly did have a chance in the top team and didn't deliver. And Russell did in just one race.
They have here Lando Norris at 7th, Carlos Sainz at 8th. When you see in the same car that Carlos Sainz, despite a ton of bad luck, outperformed Lando Norris. I found that a little weird, but okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't put Norris above Sainz
And then
just because of the experience.
they complete the list with 9th, tied for 9th, Valtteri Bottas and Pierre Gasly. I would have Bottas a little higher.
I think on our list, that's what we did. We have Bottas higher.
Yeah. And then Gasly. Notable, I guess, omissions for me is Sebastian Vettel. Even though we see him be a little over the hill now.
But
Here's
this
the
list
thing.
is just
Is this for
going
this
off of this
season?
season. How behavior.
Hold on.
Seems
I
like
think
it is.
yeah. Well, I guess
This season, he's.
I would not put Vettel up
I-
there this season.
I don't know. I don't know if I would say that it's for this season. I guess it's what's currently on the grid, right? Because if you want to compare what's this season, I would just say, okay, look at the driver standings.
Right.
Right. So what is there anything? So on the drivers list, they actually have Romain Grosjean on at 8th. They have Pierre Gasly much higher. Alex Albon in the top 10.
Yeah, what? That's weird.
So if we were to make our own list again, it would be 1, 2, 3, Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc. We all agree?
Yeah.
Ricciardo 4th,
Yeah.
Yes.
Perez 5th.
No.
No, who would you put?
Bottas.
Bottas 5th. Perez 6th.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it gets tough. Who's 7th?
Sainz.
I would say Gasly.
No. Gasly, I think, belongs down there like 8, 9, 10 around there. I would put Jesus. I'm having a hard time just picking between Sainz and Russell. Just because I was really impressed by George Russell.
Russell was only one race. Come on. Yeah, he put up. But it's only one race. He's showing that he could do a magic.
But he's beaten his teammate, 37 times in a row?
Wow, on the worst car on the grid. I know. Like,
okay.
But it's not even close.
Yhancy, let's go running in Vancouver. And I probably could beat you. Wells, let's go biking. You're going to beat me, whatever. So, listen, he came for one race.
You don't think that if they're in the same car, Russell can't beat Sainz?
But
Absolutely.
we're not seeing that right now.
I mean, if we're talking if all things were equal, what would you expect to see? I believe that
I believe Russell.
I mean, Russell
Russell-
will be above all of them. Yeah.
That's what I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with because
Oh, you're right. So I said Gasly. I didn't even think Russell. I would probably put Russell 7th.
above Gasly or below
Above Gasly. Yeah.
And above
Yeah,
Sainz.
yeah, that's
And
what I'm
above
saying.
Sainz, yeah.
Because I said Gasly belongs in
Okay,
that 8,
all
9,
right.
10.
Listen, 2022, when these guys are Mercedes, that's when he's going to really put up.
This is gonna be Bottas's last year.
Yes, sir.
In F1 in general? Yeah, probably.
No, not in
Mercedes.
F1. I'm not gonna go out on a limb because I think that
Bottas will go
Bottas
back to
is a very
Dorito
good driver,
Capital, whatever.
but
Williams.
he'll
Dorito
be
Capital.
he'll
Dorito
be
Capital, yeah.
he'll be back in the midfield. There's too much good talent out there for Mercedes to ignore now to leave, especially when Hamilton is going to be leaving. They got to start bringing in somebody, much like what Ferrari did. They already knew that Vettel was probably not going to cut it. They brung in the young gun to see what he can do. I think that Mercedes is going to have to start doing that. Hamilton, obviously, he's still at the top of his game, but he's not getting any younger.
So 7, Russell? We agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 8, I say Gasly. You guys say Sainz.
I say Sainz.
And then 9, I would say Sainz, and you guys would say who? Norris?
I think do we agree that I think we're in agreement that the top 10 is pretty accurate.
It's
as far
pretty,
as
yeah.
As far as the bosses are concerned, the drivers, I don't
What
know,
do the
bro.
bosses know? Come on.
The ones that pay.
So, guys, gentlemen, a short look back to the past. Nicky Lauda once said, no, your favorite race of the year. Yhancy, I want to ask you first because I saw you watching the highlights earlier. What would you say is your favorite race of the year?
Man, this was tough because there was a few. I was torn between Imola, Mugello, and Austria.
Okay.
But then I remembered Turkey, which was a rain-stricken race. I like tension at the end. I like to know who is. I don't like to know who's going to win the race,
Yeah.
especially in the last laps.
Yep.
So based on that, that would count out Mugello. That would count out Portugal, because obviously it was a good race, but we didn't know who was at the end. Even though there was a fight for second, third, and fourth with Leclerc, Vettel, and Perez, I am going to go with Imola because of that fight between Sainz and Gasly for the win. We didn't know
That was Monza.
That was Monza.
I'm sorry, Monza. Sorry, not Imola. Monza. That's what I'm thinking about. Monza, because Carlos Sainz, I think that's when he showed up. He said that's what he woke up. He said he smelled the win and he was closing in. And then Gasly did a phenomenal job to hold them back and eventually get the win. So to me, it was Monza.
That was
what I had to. But that's the reason why before we started recording, I didn't even say anything because I wanted to say that. I wanted to keep it quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I think, Monza to me was, my favorite race of the year because of that, because the unexpected outcome, and it was the top three.
That tension at the end of the race is everything. When you don't know who's going to win that race, especially in those last 5 laps, that is everything because you're just on edge.
He had us on the edge, especially when Sainz was coming and Gasly started slowing down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because obviously, remember, because his tires were really going and Sainz was on point. Sainz was like a shark when he smells a little bit of blood and he's like, I'm coming for you. No, you're not.
And we had, in that race, we also had Daniel Ricciardo and Sergio Perez right there with them. That was a
Who was it? Stroll that came in third in that race.
Stroll came in third, but then like it was a tight finish.
Yeah, I mean,
It was totally unexpected, super tight finish, and can you be any happier than either? Obviously, Gasly won, but either or would have won, either Gasly or Sainz. Like I was so pumped when Gasly won, the way the radio sounded, the way they celebrated. Come on,
this was tough because.
Can you imagine
this was
that
a lot. This was a lot. There was a lot of good races.
Alpha Tauri is an Italian team.
Yes.
Could you imagine this happening with the place full of fans?
Would have been insane.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would have been.
Would have been insane. It would have been insane.
All right, so that's Yhancy. That's Ruben. I'm going to cheat a little bit. My favorite race of the year was Silverstone. And why do I say that? It's because they did it back to back, and they were both high tension. And why was that? Because we had the high abrasion on the tires, and the first one was when Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas had the tires pop on them.
So you would say those two are top two for you? I'm just
and then the 70th anniversary. But the first one, if you recall, Lewis Hamilton, his tires blew like literally 2 corners from the end, and you see Max Verstappen just gaining like 15 seconds at a time. It was like ridiculous. He ends up winning, but then
but that was because that would have been so good if Max hadn't pitted.
Exactly. He had pitted to avoid that situation. It was like an opposite strategy to Mercedes. And then the buzz was there. Like literally we were all buzzing for the whole week going into the 70th anniversary. Like, yo, is it going to happen again?
Yep.
Is Red Bull going to be able to take advantage? And Red Bull did take advantage. We had Max win first place, and then the 2 Mercedes drivers second and third.
And the only difference was because they changed it. They went a step softer on the tires.
Exactly. It was 2 weeks and 2 races of a great time.
Yeah. So the British Grand Prix would be your top.
It was Silverstone.
Both of them.
Silverstone.
Yeah, it was Silverstone week. I'll call it.
So
it was just good.
The British Grand Prix would be the number 1, and then the 70th anniversary.
Yeah, I would say
2.
yeah.
Who you got number 3?
Well, no, it just
who'd be your third?
Not to take up more time, but I would say to me,
you can't pick between the two.
The first one. The first race.
Hold on.
The first race of the season was Austria. I'm sorry. The first race of the season was my number 3 choice.
Okay.
It was freaking mayhem. You guys remember?
Yep.
We were watching the highlight earlier.
That was my second pick.
Kimmy's tire flew off. Alex Albon was doing really well. Lewis Hamilton bumped him off, got a penalty, dropped him down to 4th. We saw Lando Norris, last lap Lando. It was bananas.
Scenario 7.
Yeah.
All in one race.
Push 7, right? Mm-hmm. That was awesome. All right.
We had a lot of good races this
Ruben,
season.
favorite drive of the year?
Favorite drive? When you say favorite drive, like as a driver, the way they, what they did?
What they did during a
race, yeah.
I would go with Bahrain, Grosjean.
How? Well, he crashed out.
Exactly. He got himself out of the car, though. And the way he told what...
Dude, no. We're talking about a driver finishing a race, bro. I mean, that's a good sentimental favorite.
No, because... And I think what made that even the point deeper into me further was him telling all the things that was going over his head, what he was thinking. That's why I picked that incident.
Okay, all right. We'll allow it. Yhancy?
Nah. Damn, there's so many. Leclerc comes to mind.
Which one?
When he got the podium in Austria.
Okay.
Gasly. No, I'm sorry. Perez when he went from first. Gasly when he went from last to first. Gasly in
Monza.
In Monza. And then you have scenario 7. That was crazy.
Last lap Lando.
That wasn't
was it triple L.
Yeah.
Dude, that seems like it was
a year ago. Yeah.
I'm gonna go
all this some of these things that we just mentioned.
I'm already called a fanboy, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Leclerc just because that car sucked.
It sucked, and then guess what? He did it again in Silverstone, third place.
He did it again in Silverstone, and then he had another drive. I don't know if it was Mugello where he came in 5th.
Yeah, Emilia Romagna. Was that Mugello? No, that was Imola.
That was Imola. I think it was Imola where he came in 5th. He had a lot of good drives, but the car was nowhere. The engine was obviously subpar. For him to make the strategy work, because I remember him in the press saying afterwards on his interviews that they took an alternative strategy because when you're so far back, you have to take certain risks. And he was pushing the teams for an alternative strategy, and they gave it to him, and he obviously got a podium. So yeah, that's my favorite drive of the season.
Drive or drive?
Drive.
So to me, there's a couple, right? This is going to be unorthodox because he didn't finish well. Alex Albon in Austria, I was like, yo, this guy is here. Finally, we see this guy pushing, fighting with Hamilton.
Finally awake.
Yeah, finally awake, finally doing something. Then I get the next week against freaking Perez has this, same type of incident. But I think that there's no finer drive, no drive that got people more excited than George Russell in Secure Grand Prix. That was the talk of, it was a quick couple of days, but
yeah, man.
Dude, it blew up everywhere. And can you imagine in the future, right? This is all I thought. Lewis Hamilton and George Russell in that seat, 2 British drivers. The center of the Formula One world is the UK. Can you imagine what that would be like in the UK to have those 2 guys fighting for a championship? I feel like that was part of the buzz. The future is here. Let's see what this kid could do. I don't know
what?
I think he would put Lewis in retirement though.
I don't know about that, dude.
He's getting older. He needs fresh blood coming through. I don't think Lewis has another season in him at the level of Rosberg.
I gotta see it to believe it.
Listen to what I'm saying. Do you think at his age, with everything that he's got going on, he is we know he is right now. He's on top of the game. He's doing everything. But do you think he is able to go through another season like he did with Rosberg?
Yeah.
I think that he would dominate. I don't think that it would happen to him again.
You know why? Because he already went through it with Rosberg.
Okay. Not only that, but then
he knows how to handle that.
He had mechanical issues too that cost him the championship. He would have won.
It wasn't like he won he lost by a lot.
I don't.
All right, so those are our favorite
but that
races.
you made me think. But I'm not gonna say that George Russell was my favorite driver this season, but I remember this wasn't that long ago, so it's not a lot to remember. I remember it being super impressed by Russell, so it's right there. For me, it's right there with that.
Just goes to show that there's a lot of highlights throughout this year.
Yeah, the Paris. Which is the same race.
Same race, Perez. Yeah.
Going from last to first.
Esteban Ocon.
I think
multiple podiums.
The only thing missing with this season was a title fight. That's the only thing that was missing. And we kind of got something like that in the midfield.
But you know what's crazy is that towards the end of the year, it was still exciting. It was still interesting. Like
Formula 1.5.
I feel even beyond that, like the whole George Russell thing, the whole Formula 1. It was still interesting. Biggest wish for next year. Ruben, I'll go to you first.
Since they were bought now by a different company, 2 things I want from that team: to retain the name.
What team?
Williams.
Okay.
To retain
your favorite team.
Yeah, to retain the name and get competitive, at least to the midfield. Bring it. Don't be with the heritage.
I don't think they're going to get to the midfield.
No, but with the heritage they have and how far back they are and stuff like that, it's going to be tough.
Dorito Capital.
Yeah. I would like Dorito Capital to make him do a flip into the salsa dip and be like in the mix.
Okay. George Russell gets some points with his actual Williams seat. Yhancy, what do you think is your biggest wish?
My biggest wish, far-fetched, but that'll be a 4-horse race for the top with obviously Mercedes and Red Bull, Ferrari, and McLaren.
Oh, I thought you were talking about drivers, but constructors,
yeah. Well,
I just don't see it happening.
Well, but if you have a race at the constructors level, then you're going to have a good race for the drivers because obviously the drivers are fighting for the top. I'm hoping, obviously, that McLaren take another step forward with that Mercedes engine and that Ferrari can right some of the wrongs of this season They're already working on a new engine. It seems to be in a good spot, but they don't know how the other teams are going to respond. And they seem to be, they're reworking the entire rear end of the car, so their aero should be better. I'm hoping that they can get up to that. I'm not saying that they are. I'm just saying that I'm hoping that they get up back to the top so we can have more of an interesting race.
Got news for you, Yhancy. It's not happening, bro.
Hater.
So what I would really love to see coming out of next year is I would love to see the Honey Badger back in the competition for race wins.
Yes.
And that, by extension, McLaren competitive and taking its place back where, obviously the history is there. I would really love to see that. And beyond that, I would love to see all of the young guns kind of take a step forward. I want to see Max Verstappen got third in the Drivers' Championship, get second, fight for first. The fighting for first is going to be tough, but whatever. I want to see Charles Leclerc take a step forward, Lando Norris take a step forward, George Russell take a step forward, Gasly. I want all these guys to take this next generation of Formula One to take a step forward, kick these old guys out, or at least threaten
Give them a run for the money.
Yes. Just like we saw Leclerc and Vettel this year.
Yes.
I want to see more of that.
You're not seeing Ocon doing that
to Alonso. Oh my God. We didn't even talk about him.
Yep.
Yo, that's right, man.
Oh
we
God.
have Fernando back. That's gonna be fun.
Was in the young testing, whatever. Like,
I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't stop for Vando on him. I just hope he doesn't do that, bro.
Gentlemen,
Poor guy.
that is the season. Is there anything else to talk about here?
Nah, man. This was just to put a final bow on it. This was an exciting season. Considering that it looked like we weren't going to get a season at the beginning of the season with the cancellation of Australia. We were able to get 17 races. It was hectic.
6 months, right?
Yeah, it was hectic because it was triple headers, races back to back to back. We loved it as fans. But it was hectic. But we did get a lot of good racing. We saw a lot of young drivers step up. We saw a lot of good drives. We got a little bit of everything. And we got a taste of a title fight with Formula 1.5. Again, the only thing that was missing was a title race at the top. But we got everything else. This was a great season for F1. It will go down in history of one of the best seasons in F1, I believe. And I hope that 2021 can top it, because that's what we all hope for. And I can't wait for Drive to Survive.
I think under the circumstances of this year and what I thought was going to happen to this season, oh my God, what a season did we get. I thought it was going to be nothing to see as far as the season. I thought it was going to be, a disaster that they were putting together. And then they came up with this season and whoa.
Yeah. Then they did it.
I'm talking about even going to the different tracks that we normally don't go to.
Mm-hmm.
I thought going to those tracks would be a disaster too. We're going there, yeah, but now we're going with this guys that never raced on this track and blah, 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 all of this other stuff. So thank you, F1.
Yeah, and what a victory for Formula One management.
Of course.
In pulling it off, and not only just staying they created this bubble that traveled around the world, which is an amazing feat, and kept, for the most part, everybody safe. Obviously, we got some positive tests. Some drivers did get coronavirus, but the fact that it didn't blow up into something bigger, everything stayed positive for the most part.
Everything stayed negative for the most part.
Well,
I would like to see,
damn it, man. Well, yeah.
I would like to see the numbers one day, as far as this is how many people we have with us, this is how many cases we got, and now actually get a percentage of that.
Oh, we probably will, but
eventually.
Overall, it was a victory for F1, a victory for us fans. And it was a great year.
And guess what? F1 TV was pretty good outside of the first race.
Yeah, outside of the first few races, it was pretty good. And what a season to start off our podcast, man.
Yeah.
Which is great.
All right, guys, I want to make sure you guys know our information at Jump to Start F1 on Twitter and Instagram, jumptostartracing@gmail.com if you want to reach out to us via email. We are on YouTube, Jump to Start Racing Podcast. Make sure to check us out, subscribe, like, drop a comment. You could even troll us. I'd be happy if you troll us. We are on various podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeart Radio, TuneIn, and Stitcher. Drop us a 5-star review or whatever.
Thank you guys for listening to us. Thank you guys for participating in social media with us.
Awesome season.
And, obviously we're looking to improve even more the next season coming up, but this has been great. And we're looking to do bigger and better things in the upcoming season.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Jump to Start F1 podcast, signing off. Till next year.
Peace.
Laters.